Be honest with yourself for a moment. If you had $300 million to your name, could you still end up flat broke? Sounds insane, right? Or unbelievable, almost like a bad joke. But here's the twist. It's happened. Not once, not twice, but to dozens of celebrities, athletes, and millionaires. Fortunes lost, lives shattered, all with more money than you'll probably ever see. So the real question is, if they could lose it all, what makes you think you're safe? Now consider this: Mike Tyson, one of the most feared, admired, and highest paid boxers of all time, made over $3 million in his career. And yet by 2003, he was flat broke, drowning in $30 million of debt. Let that sink in. The same man who could knock out another human being in 91 seconds couldn't knock out his own financial problems. Now pause for a second. Ask yourself, is the real issue the lack of money or the management of money? Because here's a truth that most people learn too late. It's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep and what you do with it. That's straight from Robert Kiyosaki's mouth. Tyson didn't need more income. He had that covered. What he needed, what most of us desperately need, is financial intelligence. Finding this interesting? Before we go on, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you're serious about rewriting your financial destiny. It takes less than a second and makes a big difference. Now let's keep going. Part 1. What is money, really? You work for it. You trade your time, your energy, your skills, and sometimes even your health, all in exchange for money. But what is money? Is it those colorful paper notes in your wallet? The digits you see on a screen when you check your bank account? Kiyosaki would say no. Money is much more than that. Money, in its simplest form, is an idea. It's not paper. It's not coins. It's not credit cards. It's a belief system, a social agreement, an illusion backed by trust. But more importantly, and here's the kicker, money is a reflection of value. When you spend $50 on a meal, what you're really saying is, this meal is worth 1 hour of my labor. You're exchanging value you produced for value someone else created. That's why Robert Kiyosaki constantly emphasizes, don't work for money, let money work for you. Because if you're constantly trading your time for money, you're in the lowest quadrant of the financial game, the E quadrant, that is employee. You're stuck exchanging hours for dollars, never realizing that money isn't wealth. Knowledge is. Assets are. Leverage is. So why do so many people, even the rich, end up broke? Because they never learn this. Money doesn't fix financial ignorance. It only magnifies it. If you're irresponsible with $100, you'll be reckless with $1,000. If you blow through $1,000, you'll burn $100,000. And if you're Mike Tyson, you'll vaporize $300 million. Part 2. Production versus consumption. Your wealth equation. Take a minute. Think back over the last 10 years. How much money has passed through your hands? $50,000, $100,000, maybe even $1 million? Now ask yourself the real question. How much of that do you still have? Here's the brutal truth. Most people don't have a money problem. They have a spending problem. You see, money flows into your life because of production. You create value, and you're rewarded for it. But it flows out through consumption, what you choose to spend it on. So here's the simple formula Robert Kiyosaki wants everyone to remember. Wealth is equal to what you produce minus what you consume. And if what you consume exceeds what you produce, welcome to the rat race. Let's talk about that. The average person, even someone making $100,000 a year, might still be living paycheck to paycheck. Not because they don't earn enough, but because every time they earn more, they spend more. They get a raise, then they buy a bigger house. They get a bonus, then they upgrade the car. Their income increases, but then their expenses chase it like a dog chasing its tail. This is what Kiyosaki calls financial insanity. Because if you're constantly increasing your lifestyle without building assets that generate cash flow, you're running harder on the treadmill, but going nowhere. It's like being in a leaky boat. You can pour in more water, that is income, but if you don't patch the holes, which is expenses, you'll still sink. If what you've heard so far is opening your eyes, don't just listen and move on. This is the kind of truth that can shift the entire direction of your financial future. So before we dive deeper, hit that like button and subscribe. Also turn on the notifications bell icon, because every week we break down the mindset, strategies and habits that the rich use to build lasting wealth, and the poor never even hear about. Stick with me. This is just getting started. Part 3. The money trap. Why you can't escape the rat race. You've heard the term rat race, right? It's not just about a 9-to-5 job. Let's be fair, a job is not evil. What's evil is depending on it for survival, because you've built a lifestyle that requires every single paycheck just to stay afloat. This is the real rat race. You make money, you spend it, you owe more, you get paid, you pay off some bills, you rack up new debt, you feel trapped again. And the scariest part, most people live like this their entire lives, not because they're lazy, but because they were never taught how money really works. This is the very reason Kiyosaki wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He saw the tragedy of intelligent, hard-working people living one emergency away from disaster, because they lacked financial education. They were never taught the difference between assets versus liabilities, good debt versus bad debt, spending for status versus spending for growth. They were taught to chase promotions, not passive income. They were told to buy a house, not build a portfolio. They were told to save money, not invest it to create more. And worst of all, they measure success by appearances. As Kiyosaki says, too many people buy things they don't need, with money they don't have, to impress people they don't even like. This is where the real danger lies. The new shoes, the designer bag, the Instagram lifestyle. They're not just purchases, they're traps, disguised as progress. And it's not your fault, you're surrounded by it. In the past it was keeping up with the Joneses. Today it's keeping up with influencers you've never even met. The way out, start with awareness. The first step out of the money trap isn't a new job, a side hustle, or a get-rich-quick course. It's awareness. Track your expenses, categorize your spending, ask hard questions like, why did I buy this? What need was I trying to fulfill? Was this for value or for validation? Yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it might feel like looking in the mirror after a financial hangover. But this is what Robert Kiyosaki calls the beginning of financial intelligence. You cannot escape the rat race until you understand your own patterns, until you realize you've been programmed to consume instead of produce, until you stop chasing money and start building systems that generate it, even while you sleep. And it starts with one decision: to stop living on the edge and start building a foundation. But before we go on, think about this. If Mike Tyson, with $300 million, could lose it all, what's stopping you from doing the same? Unless you learn what he didn't. Part 4. The real secret to making more money that most people avoid. Let's shift gears. We've talked about debt. We've talked about spending. We've even unpacked your relationship with money. Now let's talk about something more exciting: how to make more of it. And not just a little more. I'm talking about life-changing income. The kind that gives you freedom, options, power, peace of mind. Because while it's wise to learn how to cut your expenses, it's far more powerful to learn how to grow your income. But why do most people avoid this? Because, let's be real, it's easier to tell people to stop spending than it is to teach them how to earn more. It's safer advice, more socially acceptable, easier to implement. That's why entire personal finance communities, like the FIRE movement or minimalist circles, center their strategies around cutting costs, living frugally, and saving aggressively. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with that. Frugality is wise. Budgeting is essential. Delayed gratification is powerful. But, and this is a big but, frugality has a ceiling. You can only save so much. You can't shrink your way to financial freedom. As Robert Kiyosaki says, it's not about living below your means. It's about expanding your means. Let that sink in. Graham Stephan doesn't make hundreds of thousands per month by clipping coupons. Dave Ramsey didn't build a $50 million empire by saying no to Starbucks. They increased their value in the marketplace. and the money followed. So how do you increase your production? Let's go back to a principle Kiyosaki teaches over and over again. The rich don't work for money. They build systems that make money work for them. This is what separates producers from consumers, and what separates the rich from the stuck. Money flows to those who create value and deliver that value at scale. That's the formula. Find a problem, create a solution, deliver that solution to the market. Graham Stephan creates educational videos on YouTube. Ben Francis built a global fitness brand, Gymshark, from his garage. And Robert Kiyosaki, he created books, board games, coaching, and real estate systems, all delivering value to people who needed financial transformation. But let's be honest, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. That's okay. Kiyosaki's message isn't that everyone needs to be a CEO. It's that everyone needs to think like a producer. Whether you're still working a 9-to-5, freelancing, selling a product, creating content, or managing a team, you need to constantly ask, how can I increase the value I bring to the marketplace? Because your income will always chase your impact. If you're getting value from this right now, and you're ready to stop living like a passive consumer and start thinking like a producer, type this in the comments. I will not only be a consumer, I will be a producer. When I see your comment, I'll personally give it a heart, because it tells me you're not just watching, you're wise enough to take action, and that makes all the difference. Production in the digital age. Here's the good news. You're living in the best time in human history to be a producer. The internet has leveled the playing field. You no longer need $1 million to start a business or global distribution to sell a product. All you need is an idea that solves a problem, a platform to share it, and the persistence to keep showing up. Whether it's YouTube, Substack, Shopify, Fiverr, or an app you're building from your laptop, you can now package your skills, your creativity, or your knowledge into a product that pays you repeatedly. This is what Kiyosaki calls leveraged income, where your effort creates an asset, and that asset keeps earning even when you're asleep. That's the game. Don't just work for money. Build something once that works for you forever, from budgeting to building. Before we wrap this up, let's tie it all together. The real path to wealth isn't found in budgeting alone. Yes, you need to manage your spending. Yes, you should live below your means. Yes, you should track where your money goes, but don't stop there. The wealthy don't just focus on cutting back. They focus on leveling up, so track your spending. Yes, but also track your skills, track your progress, track the value you're producing, and find ways to multiply it. Think like a producer, act like an owner, invest like the rich. Because when you shift from consumer to creator, you stop living paycheck to paycheck and start building a life of freedom. This isn't just about money, it's about your future. Let me end with this. If you've watched this far, it means you're not like most people. Most people would have clicked away by now. They'd rather binge Netflix or scroll through TikTok than face the uncomfortable truth about their finances. But not you. You stayed. And that tells me something powerful about you. You're ready to take control. You're ready to stop blaming the system, your past, your paycheck, or your parents, and start building your own future with intention, intelligence, and grit. That's what this video was about. Not just saving money, not just making more money, but becoming the kind of person who understands money and uses it as a tool to create freedom. If that's you, you're in the right place. Want to keep growing? Hit the like button. It helps the algorithm reach more people who need this message. Subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into personal finance, business, and wealth building. Want to go deeper? I have a few must-read book suggestions for you. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, a life changer. The Millionaire Next Door, On the Habits of Real Wealth. Your Money or Your Life, a guide to transforming your relationship with money. The Millionaire Fastlane by M.J. DeMarco, a brutal but brilliant take on entrepreneurship. But above all, keep this in mind. You are not stuck. You are not helpless. You are one decision away from a completely different financial future. Start now. Build, produce, invest, learn, and remember, this isn't just about getting rich. It's about getting free. Thank you for watching. We appreciate you.